We all know the story of Peter Pan, that carefree boy who never wants to grow up, flying through Neverland with adventure in his heart. And the Disney version of Peter Pan paints him as this hero of boyhood, the champion of freedom and adventure and fun. But as I was going back through the original version, the J.M. Barrie's version of Peter Pan, I realized that that original story is not so much a celebration of boyhood as it is a tragedy of masculinity, a tragedy of manhood. Because Peter Pan didn't just not grow up, he refused to grow up. And I believe this becomes a sober warning for us as men as well today. Certainly, boyhood is a gift. It's a time of freedom, adventure, and play. And in many ways, it reflects something essential about the masculine soul, our love of exploration, risk, and the thrill of the unknown. And it's something to be freely enjoyed. We should never lose our sense of wonder, our ability to play, and our thirst for adventure. These are not things that we should outgrow. They're things that we must carry with us into maturity. But Peter Pan's tragedy isn't that he loves adventure, it's that he refuses to grow up. And in this way, as an archetype, he is static in his immaturity. And so other archetypes like the Greek god of war, Ares, or the Greek god of love, Eros, they are static, but there's a sense of finality, a sense of maturity, a sense of completeness in their story. But yes, we don't see them change or develop from one story to the other, but there's a sense in which they become that eternal warrior or that eternal lover. But for Peter, he becomes that eternal boy who refuses to grow up. He's stuck in his boyhood, and this is not how it's supposed to be. On the one hand, boyhood is a time of adventure, curiosity, and joy, but adventure isn't meant to keep us stuck. It's meant to prepare us for something greater. And this is like Simba, who eventually had to realize there's more to him than what he had become, that he had to leave his carefree life behind to take his rightful place on his throne. The tragedy of Peter Pan isn't that he loves adventure, but that when it's time to grow up, he refuses. And that's a real warning for us as well. There's a time for us to be the boy and a time for us to continue our maturity into manhood. But why does Peter Pan refuse to grow up? I believe a clue is found in his relationship with the masculine and the feminine. While he has an abundance of one, he lacks a meaningful integration of the other. On the one hand, he seeks and readily receives feminine attention, even sparking the jealousy of Tinkerbell. He seeks out Wendy to be a mother figure for him and the other lost boys, and she fully embraces this role, nurturing and comforting Peter in all the ways a good mother would. And like a good mother, she also wants what's best for him. She wants Peter to grow up. She invites Peter and the rest of the lost boys back home with her. While the rest of the boys return back with Wendy and eventually do grow up, their stories remain less than inspiring. Yet despite Peter's affection for Wendy, he cannot say yes to her. He cannot stay with her and returns back to Neverland. What's missing is a strong masculine figure to guide and initiate Peter into his manhood. Eve can arouse and inspire our masculinity in many ways, but she cannot bestow or give us our masculine identity. We need other men for this. And such men are what's lacking in Peter's story. We essentially have Hook and Mr. Darling as the two primary adult male figures in Pan's story. And when Hook is Peter's primary image of an adult male, it makes sense that he doesn't want to grow up to become this, become a insecure, tyrannical, or cruel man. He doesn't want to be so concerned about good form that he loses heart and can no longer enjoy life. And Pan's refusal to grow up can be seen more as a rejection of Hook. In a sense, him fighting Hook is still fighting against growing up. And so while he defeats Hook in Neverland, there's a sense in which he's still fighting against him in his rejection of growing up. On the other hand, while Mr. Darling is technically a father in the story, he doesn't provide a compelling image of strength or masculine vision. His self-absorbed impotence doesn't give the masculine presence needed to initiate boys into true manhood. And following his example, men might then occupy the role of manhood, but without his power to bring life and goodness to others. They'd be simply men in name only. When we're honest, many of us live in Peter's story. We crave adventure, passion, and beauty, but we have no mature masculine guide to show us how to be both strong and joyful, playful and mature. And as a result, we become the controlling bully like Hook or the empty vessel like Mr. Darling. And this often plays out in our relationship with Eve as well, seeking her attention, company, and pleasures, but resisting a deeper commitment and relational responsibility with her. Maturity does not require us to lose our spirit of play and adventure. We must simply learn how to wield it well. Adventure, passion, and responsibility must come together as one. As it has been said, never give a sword to a man who cannot dance. We must wield the sword of meaningful action and responsibility without forgetting how to dance. The power of our manhood is not found by doing one to the neglect of the other, but learning how to integrate both. And we suffer the same tragedy of Peter Pan when we don't. This is where Peter Pan's story serves not as an inspiration, but as a warning. Despite Disney's portrayal, Pan is not a hero of boyhood, because we were never meant to stay in Neverland. The boy who refuses to grow up is not free. He's stuck, always in limbo, never able to offer the fullness of his strength to be a blessing to others. But this doesn't have to be your story. You can stay in Neverland, always clinging to boyhood, or you can accept the mantle of responsibility and become the kingdom man that God has called you to be. What will your choice be?